Gregg Popovich came out and large support of Colin Kaepernick, saying what he did with the kneeling was very patriotic. And Gregg Popovich is he's a forward thinker. He's one of the few coaches like Steve Kerr. They're forward thinking. They have strong opinions about gun control and racism in this country. But I think it's very important and also something to note about what Gregg Popovich is saying. I don't know his political views. Most likely, he might be a Republican, but a lot of people are trying to make the Colin Kaepernick kneeling thing about you know uh, being unpatriotic. When in terms, it is very patriotic. You guys got to remember when Colin Kaepernick made the decision to kneel, he wasn't going to come out for the national anthem at all. A military veteran told him, hey, one of the most respectful things you can do is kneel. So just kneel during the anthem. Don't not come out, because then that would be a story within itself. Like he's not supporting the national anthem. Gregg Popovich coming and supported Colin Kaepernick. Gregg Popovich is a military veteran. He studied in the Air Force Academy. So Gregg Popovich, he understands where Colin Kaepernick is coming from. While some people want to hijack the kneeling and make it about something else, it was really about a protest. And America essentially has been built on protest. If you look at civil rights movement, built on protest to get minorities civil rights. Even America's own history within itself, Boston Tea Party, protesting the tax and the tariffs from Great Britain. That was a protest till we eventually separated from England, from the British Empire. America has always been built on protest. For example, another thing, I think it was after Pearl Harbor, there were some issues about concentration camps for Japanese people and stuff like that, and there was protests for that. I mean, that's all America's been, protests, and America that goes hand in hand. Because without those protests, we wouldn't have seen some of those changes that we've seen in our lifetime. You see what I'm saying? From minorities getting their rights to all kinds of rules being changes, implementation. Even like with the most recent, gruesome murders of African American children, more police agencies. I mean, and minorities, dying from the hands of police. More agencies are now instituting body cams. They want to make sure that everything is noted both orally but visually for people to see what happened. So we're not just getting the word of mouth anymore. That's making police being more accurate. The sensitivity training to deal with minorities. So when people say, what Colin Kaepernick did was unpatriotic and it was awful, it's far from the case. It's far from the case because most of the things that have changed in America have been due to protests. And just in case people don't understand, hey, this is unpatriotic, whatever. It is your right to protest. You can peacefully protest. What did Colin Kaepernick do? Peacefully protest. But they try to crucify him and make it about something else that it completely wasn't about. He was protesting the murders and police brutality of minorities by the hands of law enforcement. People are trying to say he doesn't respect the flag, this, that, and the third. This is what the flag was built on. Protesting. Americans protested taxes and tariffs until to the point it got where we, went to war with Great Britain. So, I mean, at the end of the day, guys got to understand that Gregg Popovich co-signed on this is a huge thing, but it also shows, because I know he's getting the ear of some of those, and I hate when people say this, but white America that, disagree with Colin Kaepernick. Some people that just don't understand, that are also white Americans and never have to do anything or didn't understand what the protest was about. Now they're gonna, they're gonna Google, they're gonna go back and watch what Colin Kaepernick did. Say, hey, this is not all that bad. Oh, or they might see, oh, in the neighborhoods, yeah, African American minorities in general, they're getting murdered at a higher rate than any other race by law enforcement. So that might open some eyes. So I think that was very important for Gregg Popovich to say, because not enough people are saying it, especially people that that are from white America. It's only minorities have no problem saying there's some kind of racism, there's some kind of issue, but for some reason a lot of mainstream America just doesn't want to acknowledge it. And until you acknowledge it, it can't be fixed. Until you respect the opinions of other people, it can't be fixed. And Martin Luther King was one of the key people with the protesting, and he did peaceful protests. Malcolm X had his own style, but Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, people like that, their protest meant something, and it changed our world. So what Colin Kaepernick doing is very patriotic. It changed. It will force a change, a spark a change, just like many things before. It's just like throwing a bunch of tea in the Atlantic Ocean forced a change in America. Back in the 1600s or whatever the case, 1700s. So don't overlook this. Don't minimize this. I think this is very important that Gregg Popovich is speaking out on this, because he has a broad view spectrum on this. He sees both sides, but he's also just pointing out what's right and what's wrong. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla. Like, comment, subscribe.